Hi everyone, my name is Keanu Eugene, and this is basically the ultimate guide to writing creatively, creative writing, prose writing. No copyright in this because I'm an author, not a marketer, right? And I'm just going to record a full session with the example that I gave in my previous video in this playlist, right? So, quick intro, who I am. I've been writing for 4 years and I've gotten 1.83 million words done in that time. Along with my practical writing time, I've studied writing and I've done the math, and it's over 10,000 hours. So I've gotten my 10,000 hours done to be proficient at something, or best one of the best at something. And all of these chapters and words are available publicly here. I recently joined this, so this isn't accurate. It's been like 3 weeks, but everything I've written is available here, and all the links will be available in the Discord in the description. But you can see from my first book 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, and how terrible my writing was, and I've only gotten better since, to my current two books, which I've recently completed volume 1 of, right? 45, chapter 45. So all of my mistakes and lessons are public, so you can all learn from me and get the lessons without having to get burned. And I'll be sharing them more in depth during this. So the most important thing is I've done the volume. I've gone through the painful lessons of having people hate my writing in the comments and fixed it, and now they mostly like it. And I'm giving it all away here. And also importantly, if you want to do this full time, I've actually gotten paid for my writing. So like, that's pretty important if you want to do this as a job, which I want to. I want this to be my full time career, right? So that's a pretty important indicator too. Like, my Patreon is actually a thing. So these are how much I've written. These are my books. You could find them in my web novel description link in the description, so you can check out that I'm legit. And now, moving on from there, this is the third video in the playlist. This playlist, in which I promised one thing at the end of this last video, right? Because we went through plotting, planning, genres, understanding your audience, all of that. And then towards the end of the video, I plotted out a simple story live, and I said that I would write chapter 1 live in this video, which I'm going to do. So this video is going to be very long. Grab a snack, because I'm going to plan it live. I haven't thought about it since 6 months ago, because I've been writing my ongoing stories and getting these ready and finishing this one. But now I'm back, going to be more consistent, and I'm going to be planning the first scene of this book live, writing it live, and then I will edit and give a full breakdown. So I'm going to give a full breakdown of everything I do, my entire thought process, all the subconscious things that happen after my 10,000 hours of experience that I don't really think about much, but I'm trying to make this one video for people who are completely new, so you can understand why I use quotes, commas, full stops, everything, why I capitalize certain letters, why I don't, how I use dialogue tags, where I stop paragraphs, where I start scenes, all of it. I'm going to put all of it in the breakdown. So first I'm going to plan it, then write it live. So for that part I won't be talking that much, but you'll see me write in real time, and you may have to speed it up, right? Because I'm making sure to record that part, because I want you to know that you aren't the only person with your head down in your room, slamming your head against the desk, trying to get words on the page. We're all going through this, and it can be lonely, and you might go insane if you just think you're the only person suffering, right? So we're planning it, then we're writing it, and then after all the writing is done, I'll show you my basic editing process, and I'll go line by line, my thoughts and the reasoning I chose the words I did on the sequencing I did. And every time I stop and add a comment to the Google Doc, which will be available in the description, along with the timestamps, so you won't have to watch this entire hour long video every time you want to find something. Consider each of those things a future video, right? Because this is a way for me to give a table of contents for my channel. Because everything I speak about today, I'll be giving these shorter versions, but they can be like an hour long video topic by themselves. Hopefully they won't actually be an hour long. But yeah, I'm going to give you the overview so you can start writing, and then as I release more videos, you can check out those if you want, and then go back and clean up specific parts of your writing, which is what I did. But I used the comments to tell me what I sucked at. But you won't have to go through that, right? So yeah, that's the plan. This will be in this playlist, right? And everything's available. My Trackerbear is in the description, along with the Adventurers Guild, which is my Discord, which will also be in the description. But the code to join this, so you can put down how many words you write every day. But I understand that some people won't want to do this because you'll feel pressured to write every day, which might stifle your writing. So this is completely optional, right? I just have it there for accountability. And my web novel is in the description, so you can see how terrible I was at the beginning and how much better I've gotten after 1.8 million words, right? Anything else? Right. This is what we're working on today. It's Wizard School, right? Everybody has a different element, so I'm using basically the Avatar, the Last Airbender power system, Earth, Fire, Wind, Air. The genre is fantasy adventure, but it's only the first scene or the first chapter, so we won't be getting much into that. General rule of thumb is, if you're serializing your writing, within the first 5 chapters, your plot should start. If you are not serializing, if you're doing a traditional book, like a regular book on Amazon, right? Like, here we go. If you're doing like one of these, then within the first 3,000 words, you want your plot to start, but you can afford to take longer, because when people buy your book, they have the entire book. For me, they can read one chapter and just drop the book after, because it's free online. So I have to start my plot earlier. But if you're doing one of these books, you have more leeway, because so long as your marketing is good, they'll buy the full book. They won't. But generally, within the first 10 pages, you want your plot to start, because Amazon lets you sample the first 10 pages for free. So if they read the first 10 pages like I often do and they see it's not good, or it hasn't started yet, they may not buy your book, right? So, Wizard School, elemental magic system, fantasy adventure style, right? Main character wants to be rich, right? And then the potential for like the chosen one and dragon stuff we won't be touching yet, because, well, that will be in the synopsis or the book blurb, which we'll get to eventually. Writing that out eventually, right? But for now, we just want to get you interested in the story, in the world, in the character. And then that stuff we'll expand upon later if we were doing this full book, right? So most of this stuff won't come into play in the first scene. This is for later. This is if you did the full book. So mainly things we want to get across: Wizard School, magic system, main character personality, and give us something to care about in the story so far. Right? So this is where I'll be doing it. Magic School, elemental magic character introduction. That's it. And I like to have chapter start. I do this on web novel so people know when my chapter starts. If you don't know how to do a scene break, generally you want to do something like 3 of these if you're writing digitally. If not, you could put something fancier, right? But we're just doing something very simple for now. And general rule of thumb for me, if you're just doing an introduction, you don't need all the details yet. You don't need full descriptions of things. So don't let that stop you from writing your scenes. Okay? Now, we know what we're writing. Wizard School introduction, magic system, character stuff is the first scene. This is what I use for editing. I'm not sponsored. Hopefully they do sponsor me at some point. And productivity hack I learned from Alex Amosi. Right? Put on music that's super low. So this is like super low music. You all can't hear it hopefully, right? I won't have it on here. And then put it on low enough that your brain like barely hears it. And then you come here and you start a timer. And every time you stop working, the timer stops. And I try to do 4 hours, at least 4 hours of this each day, which gives me about 5 chapters on a really good day, like when I'm really in the zone. But that's for after we plan, right? So after we plan, we're gonna come back here. Now, the planning part. Somebody messaged in my Discord, ignoring them. Now the planning part, right? How I plan my chapters is very simple. 3 dashes is the scene starts, or the main point starts, right? So I'll put main character appears. Actually, I'll just put main character appears, right? Followed by having 2 dashes under it as like a suffix. Intro to MC, main character, and magic system. So we get all this done immediately, right? View of the world. Again, that's what people want to see, so we get it done immediately. And setting and tone, we're getting that done immediately as well. Because in the age of modern storytelling, people don't like when stories drag their feet at the beginning. There is an audience for it. If you like it, do it. If you like having a prologue or 2, do it. You will find people, but it'll be more difficult. So generally, I like to start stories where they begin. A lot of directors, I've seen script writers and some authors, I think Brandon Sanderson says, but I'm not sure. They said stories either begin too early or start too late, right? Which means there's either a boring section that you could cut, or there's a piece of the action that you missed and the audience wants to see. So knowing when to start a story is very important. Okay, so I like to start my story moving, but some people translate that starting your story moving as start with action. You do not have to start with action. Start with momentum, which means start with a sense of progress or excitement to the story. Well, at least that's for me, because you have to know your audience, and I like to write stories, again, for winners, about winners, winning, right? I don't do 0 to hero stories. Sometimes you're a winner, but you aren't the champion, but you become champion in my stories. Right, so main character appears, introduction to the MC and magic system, view of the world, setting and tone, right? And then I can do goal and plan, right? Square brackets. Character, meaning this is the character's goal and plan, not my goal and plan. Okay, so that's the gist of what this first scene is going to be. Generally speaking, I do not plan in a document anymore. I can, but some people's mind works better if they plan on paper. So each of my books has a separate notebook, and I write down the entire plot in this format, but on paper, because my brain just likes it better that way, right? Brains are weird like that. So we have it planned, and now we have to write it, which is the difficult part. And when I'm explaining it, when I'm doing the breakdown afterwards, which you can skip to if you want, it will be timestamped, I will go back from the top and I will show you how I set up my Google document, why I set it up the way I have it, like the settings, literally the font. Even the font I chose for a specific reason to help me practice writing better. And then I'll go through every single aspect of my writing. Well, everything I catch, right? So, chapter starts, grab your tea, I'm going to start writing this. Okay? I need to, view of the world. One thing to do for sure, if you're now writing and you can't come up with a character name, because I'm terrible at character names, just put a placeholder. Unfortunately, for my first book, I put a placeholder, which was my friend's D&D character, and I forgot to change it before uploading. So, he was half Chinese, yeah. And I didn't realize until like chapter 60, somebody mentioned it. But yeah, so setting and tone, it's intro to MC and magic system. I did forget one thing here, which happens. You can always go back and fix it. Magic school. Okay, so this is all of what we want to accomplish for now, right? We will be writing in Okay, I think my recording stopped. Maybe. I'm hoping it's fine. Because I really don't want to do this over again. But I'll just spot timestamp if anything. Okay. So I'm doing this fresh, right? So we have everything we need. Now we get into the character stuff. So I'm thinking we want it to start with motion. You want to use your USP, your magic system. The easiest one to write is fire. And you want your magic system to impact the world at some level, right? Because elemental magic system isn't very interesting. It's very much overplayed. It's the most ancient one, right? From like Chinese law. Basically every culture has their version of it. So I'll say Tim, our main character, flames dance between Tim's fingers as he enjoys the soothing winds, gazing out over the countryside. Point of view. Alright. Tense. I write in present tense. Lots of people don't like it, but little cheat code. If you keep your tense consistent, people's brains don't actually recognize it past like the first 2 pages. So it really doesn't matter, just keep it consistent. And it's okay to swing between them a little bit if it makes the sentence sound better. But this is the point of reading your stuff out loud, right? Flames dance. I'll say orange flames dance between Tim's fingers as he enjoys the soothing winds, gazing out over the countryside. Leaning on the railing of the skyship. On the wooden railing. Skyship. I don't want to have to describe too much in the first in the first chapter. Gazing out over the sea, right? Gazing out over the sea. Yeah, sure, I'll put him on a regular ship for now. No, I kind of like Skyship. Embraces the silence. Embraces the silence. Embraces the silence. In his left hand to meet the flames around his right, controlling them to form a line that snakes between his fingers in a solid loop, right? Character motion. We're getting the audience interested in his magic system. Underrated thing here, right? How do I say this? You shouldn't be... No, I don't want the first thing. The first lines are very important. Dialogue lines. The other stuff doesn't really matter that much. People say it does. It really doesn't. your character lines are way more important than your narration. Trust me, like third person omniscient is the narrator writing style, and no, people overvalue your opening line must be amazing. No, your first character line must be amazing. Right. His first character line should be. Actually, I don't think it should be his. You shouldn't be doing that. A voice calls out behind him, and Tim turns around, dispelling his flames to see a tall blonde boy standing there with his arms crossed, right? What do you mean? Magic on a skyship. Magic on a skyship, especially one made mostly of enchanted. Let's say enchanted wood, right? Not smart. Not smart. Actually, not allowed. I didn't know that. He lies, and omniscient. If somebody lies, you generally have to say a lie. But I mean, sometimes you don't. But I like to, because it's a nice little challenge. I didn't know that. Beside him and leans against it, adjusting his thick coat and shivering as they pass above a cloud. He glances at Tim, a scrappy fellow with with dirt brown hair and patchwork clothes, right? Patchwork clothes, wearing only a single layer to protect him from the elements. Okay, he glances at Tim, right? Keep in time. People say I shouldn't edit while I write it, and I try not to, but sometimes I gotta. It's in my brain. Are you going to get me expelled? Tim asks, seeing the emblazoned crest on the boy's, on the shoulder of the boy's arm. We aren't even first years yet. I'd have to wait until we get to the school. He turns and offers his hand to Tim. Darion, where's our rich sounding name? Darion Braver. That sounds generic. Darion Braver. Tim shakes his hand. Like Duke? What the? My stream keeps pausing, so I hope you all got most of that. Like Duke Braver. My grandfather. My grandfather. Tim. No last name. No last name. No family name, I guess. I don't want to come up with one, but we'd use that to add law, right? No family name. Right. I assumed as much. He goes back to leaning to railing. Not cold out here. You get sick. Tim raises a hand and forms dancing flames around his fingers. The cold hasn't bothered me since my awakening, right? So we're adding in some law. The cold hasn't bothered me since my awakening. That's unusual. Exhales a gust of green winds, showing off his magic. So they don't have to say, oh yeah, I'm a fire wizard, I'm a wind wizard, right? You can just show the audience. Nothing's been the same for me since then either, right? Why does it keep stopping? The hell? Okay, so he's hinting at like something in my life changed too. Okay. There must be some setting I have wrong or something. Whatever. That's unusual. Nothing's been the same for me since then either. Okay, so we got let's look up at our thing. Intro to the MC and magic system. Sure. View of the world. Then frowns. How do I want to progress with this one? Main character appears, magic skill, field of view, setting and tone. Don't sound happy about awakening. It's complicated. Then points at the horizon. I almost brought capital H because my character's name was Horizon, so it's muscle memory. Looks like we're there. Tim's gaze follows Darion. He sees massive massive spires cresting a forlorn mountain. Far horizon. Darion's finger to the far horizon. Whoa. He nods as the sky ship gets closer. Close enough for them to see a castle the size of a city built into a mountain that was hollowed out to form a large bowl. Boom, there we go. The main four spires, each stationed in a quadrant, surpassed the mountain's walls, and even as this guys approached, they only seemed to grow taller. Generally, you shouldn't use seem in Omniscient because the narrator is supposed to know exactly what's going on. But if you're setting tone, you get to like flex the rules a little bit. So I want the effect of, oh, as they get closer, it gets more grand in scale. Yeah. I'm missing something here. View of the world. I'll change this. A noble who doesn't sound happy about awakening. Not even at the school yet, and I'm already charting history. Alright, this is a little better. It's complicated. Right? So this is some world building. This little thing is just some world building. heard they pay high ranking, I'll just say mages, right? Wizards a lot. It's true, but only because they die so often, right? Timnads. Better me than who? Okay, so scene end. I think that's up good. I don't want to do this too long because I want to actually do the breakdown more. Because this isn't meant to be like a... Because if I had the entire book plan, like if I knew... Because I'll simply show you, right? This is how I have binary planned out in this little book I took from my mom. And whenever I have a scene planned, I would go from the top here, and then I would plan the exact same way I showed you in document. But I would plan the entire book, and when I'm done, I cross them out, like you're seeing here. So like it goes and goes, right? And the way I write is very much about foreshadowing. Because I want a story that gets more exciting to read every time you reread it, right? You notice small things. So now we're gonna go through and I'm gonna add my comments and we're going to start the breakdown section. Okay, breakdown and editing. So, can I put this as like a thing, like a heading, right? Right, scene start, and then I'll put, yeah. I mean, you guys don't have the video. So, generally speaking, Orange Flames, this is super short, luckily. Only a couple hundred words. This is, yeah, shouldn't take long, 440. Okay, Orange Flames dance between Tim's fingers as he enjoys the soothing winds, gazing out over the countryside. I'll say, as they sail through the clouds. Okay, so I want to set the precedent. This is a skyship. Now remember what we have here, and I'll actually add this. Can't I just take this? I think I can just take this. Yeah, okay. Right, remember what we have here, right? His sister and his wealth. That's like part of it. His village is starving, his family is sick, or his sister is sick, or whatever, his mom, whoever it is, it doesn't really matter for this part. And we just want to set the tone out like the world is grander. Now, Orange Flames dance between Tim's fingers. Immediately, we're interested in the magic system. In my second YouTube video, I said your USP, your unique selling proposition, needs to be front and center. People have to be reading your story and enjoying what's unique about your story. And for many of us, we like to think, oh, our magic system is so unique. But you don't need it to be unique if you just have it front and center all the time. In this case, he's doing what's effectively rolling the coin across your knuckles that some characters in movies and stuff do. It's kind of nervous stick, like using a fidget spinner, basically. Alright? And it gets the audience intrigued because they're like, oh, he can just do that with his fire. So it gets their brain thinking, right? And then he enjoys soothing winds, and this part is to tell you, oh, they sail through the clouds. Skyship, you're in a fantasy book, so your audience kind of knows what to expect from fantasy to an extent. Now, in your first or second editing phase, you would add a description, right? So this part here is USP. Unique selling proposition, right? And This is what separates your book from the others, right? And I did this really well in like my last book, because Horizon would always have his phone floating next to him because he has telekinesis, and he used it in the most convenient ways. So if you read out of my book and then you're going about your day and you're like, I wish I could just make my phone float so I wouldn't have to hold it all the time, right? You're like, I wish I had a third hand. Well, if I had telekinesis, that would be nice. So you want to have stuff like this, but this goes into magic system design, which will be its own video, right? Because people usually think about the high level stuff in their magic, but not the low level, and it usually bites them in the foot. This stuff, the USP, is what got like Harry Potter fans in a chokehold, because they have spells for everything. They don't have much combat spells in Harry Potter, but they have everyday spells, because logically, if you have magic, the everyday person is going to try to make their life easier with magic. We don't all want to be soldiers, right? We want to make our life easier. So we're going to have magic to use like a flashlight or a mic, or to make small things float, like make the remote float to you, right? Or multiply your food. These are all spells they have in Harry Potter. But they have like 5 combat spells, right? But they have like a dozen or 2 dozen regular life spells, right? This helps with this setting. That's Alexa, ignore her. For a fantasy world, right? Immediately tells your audience that you're in a magical world. So it tells them, hey, open your mind. Yeah, that's setting up fancy world. It tells them, hey, open your mind to the possibility that some weird stuff is gonna happen. But I'm gonna explain later, right? So that's what this part does. Oh, I actually said I was gonna do this. So real quick, the quick and dirty of it. If you're writing in Google Docs, Roboto, and no page numbers and no indentation, because this is something books have figured out, like editors have figured out. Arial, right, is very easy on the eyes, so people could read a lot of Arial without their eyes hurting. Okay, and then indentation and page numbers are pacing tools, they aren't writing tools. So they help the audience feel as if progress is being made. Because if this book, 1200 pages, wasn't in Arial with indentations, with physical pages to turn, it would be miserable to read through. Because he just talks about random crap most of the time, right? He just repeats himself. So if you want to improve your pacing in your actual writing, stop relying on this stuff. Take it all away. Roboto is the most basic font. It doesn't hurt your eyes, but like it trains some of the pacing crutches you get. No page numbers either. So if your story is slow paced, we don't get a page number ticking up, because the human brain, once it sees a number increasing, we get a sense of progress. No, you want your words to do that, not your page numbers. And then indentation is the exact same thing. When we see indents, we see, oh, progress, 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 right? But we want to remove all of that because we want our writing to do it. So play on hard mode to make easy mode even better. If you write like this, when your book goes into editing like this, it'll be way easier. Yeah. It's like a free plus 10 points, right? On your 90, so you get 100. But that's why I have like Roboto, and then no indentation, no page breaks, no page number. It's just one big page. Leaning on the railing of the skyship, he takes a deep breath and embraces the silence. Right? This is setting atmosphere. So that's all this is doing. Setting atmosphere and filling the scene. Blocking, right? Blocking is setting things / people in position within a area. So this is telling you who's in the left corner, who's in the right corner of a scene before the scene, well, during the scene, right? so the audience can picture exactly where they are in their mind. And that's all this is doing. Right? This is making the audience interested. Making the audience interested in how the magic system can be manipulated, right? Shows complexity, but it also shows character, right? Also shows that he is actively using the magic system in different ways. So it shows a hint and character creativity. It shows a hint of the magic system on a larger scale, but it also shows off, okay, this character is going to try some interesting things at least. He's not going to just be throwing fireballs every single fight, right? He's going to be like trying to make flame swords or something. I don't know. We're probably not going to get that far. Then normally this is a no-no. This is something you don't normally do, right? Normally the first thing you do is you have your main character speak, because generally speaking the audience sticks to the first person they see speaking a scene. They're like, okay, this is the person's scenes, right? But we had this beforehand telling you this is the main character. So I got away with this because I got to say, oh, this happens, right? Generally, the main character should speak first. I need to pause this video for a second. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully I paused. I had to get for a second. Okay, generally the main character should speak first because the audience gets attached to the first person to speak in a scene, right? You could get away with this if you're in first person or third limited, because you say chapter 1, Tim's point of view, alright? So the audience knows this is Tim's point of view. In this example, right? In this paragraph here, I lean into second person, right? Regular bracket. Tim is watching this goddamn thing. My recording software keeps pausing. I'll have to check that out in a second. We aren't even first years yet. I'd have to wait until we get to the school, right? So now we know they're going to the school. So we have a progress marker and goal. The progress marker is how close are they to his school, and the goal is to get to his school, right? Character name. Character name revealed. Until now, Darion's name was never mentioned, even by the narrator, right? This is something I do personally because I want to keep it consistent. I want to keep what the narrator and the character knows as close as possible in scenes like this, because that way it's easier for the audience to track what people know. Because remember, you're an omniscient, so the narrator knows everything, but the characters don't always know everything. So until this point, Darion wasn't said anywhere, right? This is why I kept it simple with just 2 characters, because this is harder to do with multiple characters. Braver, right? So Tim knows law. Audience doesn't, right? So this hints like it's a living world. it's a living world even without the audience being present, right? So the world is bigger than just what we see. That's what stuff like this adds. It gives a grander feeling to the entire world. I keep looking to the left to make sure this thing is still recording. My grandfather, and you are, there should be a question mark, right? Right. More lore for Darion. Simple. Tim, no family name. This is lore too. Lore for Tim and the world. Right. And at this point, the readers should assume he is a commoner. Therefore, conclude commoners or people of Tim's status have no family name, right? I know Game of Thrones did like sand if you were orphan in Dawn, or snow if you were like an orphan or a bastard in the north, right? But I mean, you know, you can just change that later. Right, I assume as much, right? Darion validates the audience's thoughts. So you give them an immediate win. Gives the audience an immediate win. You want this in your book because this helps people keep pushing through our story. If it's a short scene like this, or like a scene where no action happens, having markers works. So this is one marker here. And more character blocking, right? Blocking, right? And Darion is relaxed to show he is apparently not going to report Tim and is just here to enjoy the view and chat, right? So he's not tense anymore. Well, Tim is not tense anymore, at least because he sees Darion is relaxed. He's not going to be like, hey, Captain or God, this guy was using magic outside. Let's throw him overboard. Like, he's not a snitch, right? He's just there to chill. Then Darion brings the subtext, brings the subtext to the main text, okay? The issue, right? The issue of Tim breaking the rules is gone. Now the audience gets an answer to why Tim isn't cold, but Darion is. This is gonna get interesting, right? So, Tim raises a hand to form the flame, right? Showing off your unique selling proposition. Simple stuff, right? Law on how magic affects users and how you gain magic. You aren't born with it, you awaken. And he hasn't had it long. Right? So we're getting a lot of lore here. Comment that right there. Darion says that's weird, right? Tim is not normal. Okay? Simple. Shows off more magic. Shows off your unique selling proposition even more, right? but he's not very happy with it. Unlike Tim, right? Because he frowned earlier, the audience knows this isn't a good change for his life, okay? That's why I went back and I added he frowns, or like then frowns, because I wanted the audience to know Tim is like, oh, I have magic now, my life's better, and Darion's like, oh, I have magic now, my life got a little worse because of it, right? So this is like one line foreshadowing the other. This is the importance of your dialogue tags, and we'll go through a whole thing with that afterwards. I just want to show you like how much stuff goes into this stuff, line by line. We're almost done, right? A noble who doesn't sound happy about awakening, not even at school yet, and I'm already changing history, right? This is some sarcasm. Sarcasm is hard to do via text, but mostly you add a second line to emphasize it. I think I spelled that properly. Tim intends to go to the school and make a big impact, right? Giving us some character lore, subtly, without shoving it in our face. He's not like, I'm gonna be the king of the wizards, right? He's like, oh, I'm gonna go there and make history. But he's very subdued about it. He's not like bragging, because again, it says, hold on, I'm gonna actually edit this, right? But he isn't loud about it because we have the subtext that he is inferior to nobles, right? So it sets up a hierarchy in the world, right? Nobles and then wherever Tim is. So there's a gap. That's why he can't be like, I'm gonna be king, because like he's still down here, but he wants to make a change or like make history or make an impact, right? So all of this is being layered in this short scene. It's complicated, right? Darion's subplot is promised. Even something short as this, right, is a promise to the audience that like, okay, we're gonna explore this, especially because this is in the first chapter, the first scene. So we're like, okay, we're setting up the magic school, the power system, we're on a skyship, we're going through the crowds, we're adventuring across the land to get to the school. And then this guy is complicated. He's a noble, but he's not really happy about his magic, and we're gonna explore his family later on, right? So the subplot is promised. Character blocking / camera shift to something else, right? Progress marker. The trip to the school was a journey plot. Which is just a plot that follows a map so your audience can easily follow it. Simple transition to show everyone is focused on the description ahead, right? Not entirely necessary, but sets up the audience to know that Tim is amazed at what he sees, so this sight isn't common across this fantasy world, right? Because if he doesn't react in any way, then we think, okay, giant schools that tower over the mountain are normal. But this way we're like, okay, this is rare even in this world, or it's rare to him because he's a commoner, right? He's a peasant. Then Darion silently nods as a skyship gets close enough for them to see. For them to see a castle the size of a city, right? Basic description. Full description mode. Narrator takes control. So at this point, you can just go deep in the description. The characters don't have to see everything that you're describing. You can just have the narrator just do it. So it doesn't really matter what you put here. I wonder how much gold it costs to build that. Right? Tim is immediately thinking about wealth and money. Right? Darion helps set up that their life is going to be dangerous if they aim for the top. Okay? This is plot and adventure promise. Right? And then Tim's plot. Tim's goal hinted at. Saving somebody who's sick or whatever health is, right? Sick mom, sick sister, sick daughter. Probably not daughter because he's young. Okay, so that's that stuff. But to write that stuff, you have to know syntax, which I honestly should have done first. My bad, but we're gonna just go through it now. We're gonna keep this very simple, right? Hello. Right, and this one is going to mainly be in the video, not going to be in the writing, because I want to show you how it's doing. Dialogue example, right? Hello, I'm Sean, I'm Kian, right? Full stop, he said, right? And then I go, hello, I'm Keanu, this full stop, he said. The rule for if you put a full stop or a comma is kind of iffy, because generally, if something ends, you don't have to even put he said in this. But the main thing I want to focus on is if you put the comma or the full stop before or after the quote. Both are correct. In the American version, you put it, I think, inside. In the European version, you put it outside, or maybe I swap them. It doesn't matter. Once you stay consistent, you're fine. Also, if somebody's introducing themselves, you just put he, right? And for the most part, this is generally it. Once you put your dialogue like this and your narration as everything else, it'll be fine. If you notice, when I'm writing, one person speaks per paragraph. Don't put two people speaking per paragraph, because then you will confuse your audience and everybody will hate that. There's that, right? And thought example is, I use this. Wow, that's cool, right? Right, and then you could put the comma or the full stop. Right, I usually put a comma. He thinks, right, and then you also have Control I. Wow, that's cool. Full stop. Control I. He thinks. This is just italics. And the big difference is literally that I never use italics, because when people are reading digitally, sometimes their device or their settings, like the icon for settings, will remove italics. Or if they change the font, it'll be difficult to see italics. So I just put the apostrophe, because that's easier to do, to see. So no matter what rule you choose, stick to it, be consistent. It's also a thing of if your character has telepathy, like in Oberon, they have telepathy. Well, some of the characters. So I use double quotes for spoken dialogue, single quotes for internal dialogue, and italics with single quote, the apostrophe thing, if they're thinking it into somebody else's brain. So it can get very complicated depending on how many of these you have. Like if your magic system has chants, how do you tell the difference between like a chant or a regular spell, or like is the chant just spoken or do you italicize the chant, right? And then for and then bolding stuff doesn't really work because if you're doing something digitally, a lot of settings will just remove all the bold, or it won't even show up. Like on web novel, bold doesn't show up, or it doesn't show up much at least. So like that's a thing you have to think about. You have to think about your medium, okay? But generally, one person speaking per paragraph, and then you go to the next paragraph if somebody else is speaking. And if you keep your rules straight, you should be fine. Your tense, present, past, future, it doesn't matter once you keep it consistent. Past tense is generally accepted and assumed. I write in present tense and it throws some people off, but after a couple hundred words, they get used to it once you keep it consistent. And for the most part, that's the syntax. Also, don't be scared of saying said, or like says or think or thought, right? Those words are invisible. Some people will say you should use a thesaurus for like to find a synonym for it. The audience generally doesn't care once it's not distracting from the actual dialogue. We don't care. It's just a tool for us to know who's talking and when they're talking, right? It doesn't actually matter that much. J.K. Rowling uses a lot of different things. Some people don't, some people do. So it's a matter of personal preference, however your brain works. As I think that's it for syntax for now. I'll do a full video of it eventually, but to get your first scene started, that's it here. And towards the end, I said I wanted to do like a scene transition. This isn't really much of a scene transition. Well, it is, right? Because you could put a short time skip of like them getting off the ship afterwards. But like this is a clear marker that like, oh, ellipsis, by the way, means something goes unsaid or unfinished. So better here than me, ellipsis means like there's more to that, but we aren't going to know it yet, or he's not going to say it. But be careful if you're using these too much. And semicolons and M dashes. Generally speaking, an M dash is used too much. I don't like M dashes. I've never liked them, and I hate semicolons because small rant incoming. This is bad because this doesn't show up enough for your audience to get used to it. If your audience reads a lot of fantasy books, they might be used to it, but then if you're somebody's first fantasy book, it's gonna throw them off because they're not used to it. So generally don't do it. I'd rather restructure entire sentences or paragraphs to just remove them. Same goes for M dashes, right? I only use them to put like to show that like something is different. So I'd put like Superman, and I use single dashes actually, not M dashes. Clark Kent. If I want to show off like, okay, Superman is Clark Kent. It's a sidebar. It's not like a continuation. If you're using M dashes and semicolons because your sentence is too long, change your sentence. Don't shortcut it. Don't handicap yourself like that. Just be a better writer. Yeah, I'm gonna get some heat for that, but like, yeah, just be better. Yeah, that's all. So don't do that crap. Just learn to write better sentences, and you should be fine. I think that's it for this, right? Full breakdown afterwards, writing in real time, planning, yes. So hopefully this was useful. This entire thing will be available in Google Docs. So I'm gonna copy the link, and it's gonna be in the description after this. So you can all go take a look. You'll see the comments, you'll see the things at the side, and then you'll have a very basic breakdown, and then everything I spoke about in the comments here in the sidebar, I'll make entire videos on explaining my thought process on why I do it this way, right? So everything here is gonna become a video, along with like planning and all of that stuff. But for now, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. If you have something that you want to know specifically, comment it below, or you can message me in the Discord and I'll answer it well, I'll reply first, but I'll make sure to put it on the list of things I want to include in future videos, right? And if you catch me live in the Discord on YouTube, you can just ask me there, and I'll write an example for you live, so long as I'm not already doing something. Because sometimes, like, even if like I'm talking to somebody and they mention something, I'll just write a quick example of what they want to know, so they can see how it's done. Well, how I think it's done, not how it's done. And even if you don't write in my point of view, if you don't write to omniscient, these rules generally still apply. So it would just be like, I said if it's first person, that's the main difference, right? But if it's the person speaking, who is the point of view character? But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any questions, let me know. And if you want to see how terrible I was at writing before, just go to my links, it'll take you to my web novel. And you could start from Elementalist and see how bad I was when I wrote chapter 1 of that 4 years ago, and to the new binary stuff, which is how good I've gotten so far, right? So, yeah, have a good day and get to writing. See ya.